Turns out religion kind of keeps trying to intercept this process of feeling good about my contrast. Like, I'm not in alignment, I'm a sinner. I'm in alignment, I'm good. And it's this old stuff that's rattling around. I feel like I have a kind of a handle on it, at least I know it.
So let's calibrate.
Calibrate me.
So, calibrate me, baby. We can't calibrate you. We can offer suggestions and you can choose, but your choices are what the calibration is all about. So, the idea of religion feels how to you?
Feels how?
Feels how? Does it feel intrusive? Does it feel hampering? Does it feel comforting? How does the idea or the concept of religion feel to you?
It's always felt off and annoying to me, even as a little kid.
So it felt controlling.
Controlling.
It felt controlling.
Turns out I control my environment. Like, I'm a big control freak. Like, because of, I'm trying to
So there's so much that could be calibrated right there. I'm a control freak, or I'm deliberate. I'm a control freak, or I like to guide things. I'm a control freak, or I'm doing what I was born to do. I'm a control freak. I'm an out of control freak. Feels a lot better to be a control freak than an out of control freak, doesn't it?
Right.
So maybe that's not so bad.
That's true.
The thing about religion is that we want to start in a couple of places, and then we'll calibrate together. One of the things that is really worth taking in right now while you're where you are, in this dynamic moment of connection to your inner being. Your inner being never, ever looks back. Because your inner being understands that everything valuable is right here in your now, and that your dominant state of being is one of motion forward. So your inner being doesn't look back, and that's the primary reason that religion has felt off to you, because there's a whole lot of looking back at things, sometimes a lot of really good things that were said to a lot of people under a different set of circumstances in a different time that you have no possible way of relating to. So it's sort of like blah, blah, blah in your way sort of stuff. Now, some of it is relatable. We're not at all pushing against religion or anything, but that's why it could feel sort of off to you. Your own memories are a place that your inner being doesn't go. Once you're calibrated to who you really are, then you have access to the galaxy, past, present, and future, and you can find meaningful, valuable things. But until you are feeling good and tuned in, tapped in, turned on with who you really are, then there's a plethora of stuff that could trip you up, you see. It's not uncommon for religion to be one of those. This is a good discussion. People around you have deliberately tried to get you to calibrate to religion. And the reason is because...
It's my mother.
Well, first of all, no one cares more about you, and her belief is that that's necessary for your eternal well-being, and so she's very well-meaning in that. But when she gets freaked out and offers you something to keep you from having a hard time, it's sometimes not the best path. So what you're doing here, we talked earlier about, together, let's take our understanding of the law of attraction to a new level. So this is a good opportunity to do this. So it's attraction, attraction, attraction. So your mother, for in whatever way she went about it, has come to some beliefs that she feels very strongly about. And because she cares about you, and she believes that her way is the only path to well-being for you, then she presents that to you all the time, sort of in your face. That happens to a lot of people. So now let's just take that scenario and let's identify what that feels like to you. How does it feel to have your mother very sure of something that you don't resonate with and determined to get you to resonate? People really need your calibration in order to support their belief. When you're tuned into source energy, you're not like that. When you're tuned in purely to source energy, when you've got your own connection to this, you're not looking for a bunch of other people to join you in the thought, because you're tuned into this powerful knowing and understanding. But when you're insecure and unsteady, that's when you're looking for other people to shore you up. And so that's why, not always, but in many cases, religions and clubs of all kinds are trying to get members to join them, because it validates that what they believe is right. And that's where we started today. That's what most humans are doing. You're looking for validation from other people. You are wanting to calibrate to others for the purpose of filling the void of not strong. But you can't fill up the void of weakness. Join together with other people feel weak. You're just hanging around with a lot of weak people. Just hanging around with a lot of insecure people. A lot of insecure people that then need to go out and grab other people and drag them in. And they can't get enough people dragged in with them that makes them feel the true love of source. If you're really in concert with source energy, you know everyone has a direct link to that. And you're demonstrating your connection, which is the only way through the power of your example that others will learn their connection. But you're not condemning them and blaming them and shaming them into coming with you. That's that other influence that we're talking about that is not the influence of source. And so would you say that your guidance is working when you feel an aversion to whatever your perspective of that is, which is sort of like what we just spoke here, because we got it from you? Where are you emotionally?
Well, I feel like, I've been following you for 30 years. Have you been doing this for 30 years? Like, it feels like 25 or 30 years. And
you're just a baby.
I feel like when you said earlier, the words aren't cutting it.
Yeah.
It's the feelings.
Yeah. But you see,
I'm a writer. I know all the words. I know right where to put them, and I just don't know about.
But you know what's bothering you? It's not bothering you what your mother believes, because that's working just fine for her. And it's not even really bothering you that she's trying to shove it down your throat. She isn't even really doing that so much anymore. You just remember when she did. It's the record that you keep playing as you push back, because in the physical world, it feels like if somebody's pushing you someplace you don't want to go, that you have to push back. And when you push back, there's a war against drugs and a war against poverty and a war against teenage pregnancy, and everything that there's a war against is getting bigger, because there's no exclusion in an attraction-based universe. It's your pushing against that is the subject of this conversation. Let's just cut right to that. Why do you think that you feel a need or an impulse to push against it? Are you afraid it's going to get you if you don't hold your own? If you don't stand up against something, will it overtake you? Much of the world believes that, but it isn't true. Is that what it is, though? Do you feel like you need to push back or it will get you?
It feels like the idea of wrong and right, and you have to do it this way, not this way, is tied to that. And it feels like as I go out into the world, it's a big part of my experience, and I want to calibrate my way.
So hear this, and then we'll bounce off of this. Let's take all of humanity, because the animals are doing great. Let's take all of humanity and let's acknowledge them in this realm of beingness. And in this big clump of humanity are groups. They've gathered together. The law of attraction has brought them together. They're in groups, like there's Republicans and Democrats and athletes and all variety, and every subject that you can imagine is represented by a group. And the groups overlap, we acknowledge that. But most people identify themselves as part of an ideological group. So there they all are. Your source and we see just two groups among all of humanity. Those who are in this moment, that's key. Those who are in this moment under the influence of who they really are. And under the influence, we mean a vibrational match, and therefore letting in the broadcast of that. That's what we mean by under the influence. If you're under the influence of something, you have found a vibrational match to a broadcasting frequency. So source is a broadcasting frequency of love and well-being and enthusiasm and friskiness for the eternal nature of all. And then there are a lot of broadcasting stations that are in your human realm that are about fear and guardedness and right and wrong and all that kind of stuff. So all of humanity, from our point of view, is in this moment in one group or the other, under the influence of the broadcasting station of source or under the influence of the broadcasting station of something else. That's all. So now, rather than having to sort out the rightness and the wrongness of the behavior and activity or results of the groups, now what you're doing is you're identifying the wholeness of who you have become. We said earlier, if this is going to work for you in a productive way where you can manage and control your own experience, you got to start by accepting that there is another part of you, and that that part of you has gravitated toward wellness and goodness. Well, why are we so sure that is true? Why are we so sure that your inner being is in that place of non-resistance? Well, there's some clues. Your inner being never pushes against anything. Your inner being is only about attraction and by the way it feels. But here are some other reasons that we know it for sure. When you as humans come to what you want to call the end of your physical experience, this one, and you call it your death experience, and you reemerge back into non-physical, you do not take any of your doubts and fears with you. You don't take any of those judgments. You don't take any of those pushing against-inesses things. You don't take any of that with you. You reemerge into pure, positive energy. And so, as a human, if you are now tapping into your dearly departed, they're probably really different than you remember them. Because they're not mad at anybody, they're not holding any grudges, and they don't remember where the money's buried. In other words, there's just not any of that stuff going on. They are pure positive energy. And you know what they are tuned to? They are tuned to the vibrational reality, the collective one of mass consciousness, and they are tuned to the vibrational reality that you have created. So when they think about you, when they focus upon you, they join your inner being in the singular focus of where you're going, not where you've been, who you really are vibrationally. Now, all of humanity is in the process of moving from where they are to who they really are. In the moments that you're over there, you feel wonderful. This is a statement, a new statement, in the conversation of taking understanding of the law of attraction to a new place. So, your source energy is broadcasting. Not telling you what to do, not commanding, not demanding, not asserting, just knowing what it knows and joyful in the knowledge. And therefore, broadcasting that. Now, maybe you've been in a fearful religion class where you really want to be good, but you don't know what that means. And you really do want to make the right choices, but you have no idea what the right choices are. So you're in a state of confusion, and as a result of most religion classes, in a state of being pretty worried and mad at yourself, because you remember, by their standards, all the bad choices that you've made, and by their assumption, you are not in a good place in terms of hereafter. So here's source, focused right on you, your specific source, non-physical energy, broadcasting love and understanding of who you are, but you're guilty and embarrassed and whatever, so you're not letting it in. Well, since attraction, do you know that source or your inner being or Abraham or whatever you want to call this particular focus of non-physical energy, it just bees and attracts. It doesn't assert. So it can't assert what it knows into your experience any more than a healer heals like that. That's not what's going on. There is no assertion. You got to find some way of calibrating to what that feels like. Sometimes music puts you there. Sometimes your dog or your cat puts you there. Sometimes a sexual experience puts you there, or walking on the beach puts you there. There could be any number of things as you're responding to life. And sometimes you're there and often you're not. But when you get hold of the piece, and it's a hard piece for humans to get hold of, when you have identified, just even if it's briefly, and then isolated and calibrated to the love of source, you'll never need